I have heard Just Dance by Lady Gaga countless times throughout the years, yet I do not recall a single thing about a feature being on this song. In fact, for a while I thought it was a solo Lady Gaga song. Of course, now on paper I know it has an artist featured, but when I listen to the song, I never ever remember or retain the featured artist's part. The chorus can linger on, and obviously Gaga is a memorable part of the song. But for a song that is so catchy and was so massive, it's perplexing that there's nothing remarkable about the feature on this song. And perhaps that has to do with it being a collaboration with Lady Gaga, especially early Gaga that pulled out all the stops. I feel like if we're to have been a complimentary and effective collaboration with someone like early Gaga, you have to offer up something big in the way of personality or style. Or it ends up like Just Dance, which is essentially a solo Gaga song in spirit. But who is Colby Donis? What was his significance to Lady Gaga? And why was he included on her debut single? It's one thing to feature on a popular song, but it's another level to feature on a debut song of her superstar's career that was also the lead off to such an iconic 2000s pop album and era. It's almost like being a one-hit wonder, but the hit isn't yours. Apparently, Colby Donis had been trying to break into the industry since he was a child, and did opening shows for acts like the Backstreet Boys when he was younger. He even released 6 independent albums before he got signed, so he was clearly working very hard. He eventually moved to California, and after shopping around to labels, Akon caught wind of Colby and wanted to sign him. In fact, Colby waited for the label to develop into something bigger before signing, and eventually he signed to Akon's Convict music label. Akon had an interesting roster of acts from Lady Gaga to Jeffree Star to T-Pain to Colby Donis, just such an expansive and interesting selection. Apparently, Colby Donis did in fact have his own momentum prior to Just Dance. In early 2008, he released his debut single, What You Got featuring Akon. The song was a nicely sized hit, landing at number 14 on the Hot 100. I have no recollection of this song, but it does sound very familiar, and I think that's because it sounds like every other Akon song that there ever was in the 2000s, but definitely not as catchy or commanding as Akon's best work, and on top of that, not as fun as Just Dance. Speaking of which, Gaga's debut single was Colby's second single. It does seem like a perfect way to cross-promote 2 acts a part of the same label. Just Dance was essentially a sleeper hit. It wouldn't go number 1 until the following year in 2009. Just Dance also has the fingerprints of Akon all over it. You can hear his ad-libs throughout various parts of the song, and he feels more like a good hype man throughout the song. And that's because he was actually supposed to be the one featured on the song and not Colby. I featured on the song originally, but Universal didn't clear my vocals. It was a crazy moment, so I got Colby Donis to feature on it and do my verse, but I kept my background vocals on the song, because background vocals aren't considered a feature. There was a lot of politics going on, a huge competition between Interscope and Universal, and I like to think that because I claimed my record deal at Interscope, instead of directly with Universal, where I was actually signed as an artist, they were kind of getting me back for that. It was so political that I didn't want to fight it. The song was done, finished, ready to go all the way until 2 days before we shot the video. And that's when we got the notice that we couldn't get clearance. It was a huge shock to Gaga because this was her first mega project and her first real moment. So they replaced Akon with Colby due to contractual conflict. And there was initially a bit of uncertainty because Akon was such a huge name and obviously could have brought more initial leverage to the song. But the song was so freaking catchy, it was bound to catch on regardless. And we all see how that turned out. But knowing the story behind Just Dance, I think that's exactly why Colby Donis feels so inconsequential to me on this song. Not only is his part short and followed by more interesting parts, such as Gaga's bridge, but as a force in this song, he's drowned out not only by Gaga, but Akon as well. It doesn't help that Akon can literally be heard throughout the entire song, and Colby's part sounds like it could be Akon, but not necessarily his most charismatic work. But to be clear, I don't think Colby adds or takes away from the song. He's just the guy at the party that pops up randomly and dips. Just Dance remains his biggest hit internationally. Colby dropped his debut album in 2008 titled Colby b.o.b, and it sounds like an Akon Redux album. Akon was largely involved in the record. It sounds like an Akon album without the super sticky hooks. The album flew under the radar. Colby did a few more collabs with Akon before breaking away and going the independent route. He has dropped a few songs throughout the years. But obviously nothing quite matched the greatness of Just Dance, a pop culture moment that he was legitimately a part of, but feels so removed from. His work while he was signed to Convict, Akon's label, feels like an extension of Akon himself. And I think it was too much of Akon's identity and not enough of his own. A lot of his work could pass as Akon's. Nonetheless, Just Dance is a great pop song, and I can't imagine anyone having a problem with being attached to such a huge juggernaut of a song.